Good afternoon. My name is Ben Cameron, and I have the honor of serving as the Student Body Vice President for the 2020-2021 academic year. I would like to welcome you to the 2021 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Vigil. While this event will look and feel quite different than it usually does, we still wanted to honor Dr. King in the best way we could. We are honored to have some brief remarks from Anthony DeNicola, and we will hear from several students how they are wanting to honor Dr. King's legacy this year. I hope that as you watch, you are reminded as I am of the great life and legacy of Dr. King, as well as the challenges we still face on our campus, in our state, and across our nation.
We pray peace in this time of fighting. We pray love in this time of hating. We pray safety in this time of healing. The joy of the Lord in this time of stressing. We pray Goshen over you. God's protection for you. We pray peace in this time of fighting. We pray love in this time of hating. We pray safety in this time of healing. The joy of the Lord in this time of stressing. We pray Goshen over you. God's protection for you. We shall live the land of Goshen. Say you will be near me. Your children and children will have everything you need. You shall live in the land of Goshen. Say you will be near me. Your family knows connected will have everything you need. The hand of the Lord rests upon you. His grace and mercy always surround you. Supernatural discernment within interception for you and your family. God's divine protection. We pray Goshen over you. God's protection for you. We pray Goshen over you. God's protection for you.
I am so honored to be here today speaking words of praise to our dearly departed Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I sit here today as the newly appointed inclusion liaison to the office of the Chancellor at the University of Arkansas. I still have to stop and reckon with that notion. This black, queer kid from Boston, Massachusetts now works to make good on the promise of those who fought long and hard for me to be here today. I don't take for granted the momentousness of this moment in my life, nor the shoulders of those whom I stand on today. My papa used to always wake me up bright and early, make me don a suit and a tie every MLK Day growing up. We would attend a community breakfast filled with sermons, speeches, music, paying homage to this great man and the movement that he and his brothers and sisters drove into our nation's collective consciousness. One year as we were leaving, I remember him saying it was so ironic that so often this is how we celebrate this man. With speeches, monologues. I mean, he was a man who could preach, but what he spoke of was not the power of one person to talk us out of racial injustice. He said, when receiving his Nobel Prize, violence is immoral because it thrives on hatred rather than love. It destroys community and makes brotherhood impossible. It leaves society in monologue rather than dialogue. I think of these words often when I consider what it means to be a courageous leader in this day and age that we are living in today. To build community, to choose love over hate, to overcome the tension of being in dialogue with those who see the world differently than you is the work of a courageous leader. It is not always glamorous. It is not always rewarded. It is not always safe. I'm heartened by those, like Brother Martin, who were kicked, beaten, knocked down, and found in that moment their community to lift them up, knock the dust off their shoulders, fix their wig, their makeup, put a smile back on their face, and help them find their voice once more. It is all of our collective voices that Dr. King would want us to be sharing out. Loud and proud. Not one, but all. The conversation of community. I thank him for that reminder and that call to action. Thank you.
Each year, during the day of remembrance and of celebration for the life of Dr. King, I try to remind myself of a certain quote attributed to him. If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. This quote is a personal favorite of mine because it's a call to action for all people. It is not just one singular person that moves us forward. It's the actions of a great many. Some actions may seem small and insignificant, but when you take these actions of many and bring them together, great things can happen. This quote reminds me that we must all strive to make the world a more just and a more equitable place, even if that is just one small, great step at a time.
Hi, my name is Christopher Jemison, and today I'm going to be reading a short passage from the letter that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote inside the Birmingham jail. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's greatest stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselors nor the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you and the goals you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. This message that Dr. King is presenting at the time is so valuable because he's challenging the consciousness of allies and those indifferent to the cause. As we honor Dr. King today, allies especially, take this time to listen and educate yourselves on issues facing the Black community today so that the empathy formed hopefully will drive out or guard against the complacency to wait and really ignites a passion in you to fight on, because we have a lot left to do. Thank you.
Last year at the MLK Vigil, Dr. Joseph Daniels gave a wonderful keynote speech using an influential MLK quote. Today I would like to remind you all of his words. He said that every community needs I, C, P, and M. I being intentional and actually getting to know each other as individuals and as a people. C for being consistent, not just on today, but on every single day of the year. P for being persistent through the chaos and never giving up. And M being maladjusted. MLK once said that he was proud to be maladjusted. Never ever adjust yourself to discrimination or racism.
The time is always right to do what is right. As we remember the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his legacy in these coming days, we must also remember that many of the issues he fought for still live to this day. Racism still exists. Inequality still exists. Intolerance towards others still exists. As a society, we need to remember this quote by the late Dr. King in our pursuit to rid the world of such things. The world needs visionaries. People who see the world not just for what it currently is, but for what it can be. A world where kindness and altruism are extended to all. A world where we strive not just to accept, but to embrace each other for our differences. A step in the right direction, regardless of its size, is better than no step at all. And right now, we all need to stand tall and take that step.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. These words by Martin Luther King Jr. are so important to me, especially in a time where we're experiencing so much racial injustice. It is important for us to love one another always, even when we don't always see eye to eye. It is important for us to also guide each other into the light of knowledge.
That really stuck with me was a shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. And that makes me think about lessons that I've learned at my time at the university and in the community that requires me to check certain privileges and really just consider the plight of people who are different than me, people who look and come from different backgrounds that I have never experienced before. It also makes me think about conversations that I'm having with my friends and family, and just things that we continually on this campus and university and in our communities and different circles are challenging ourselves and others to do better at. And I think it's pertinent now, it was then, and it continues to be in our society as we're progressing to a more hopefully equal and understanding and a loving community like the one that Reverend King spoke of.
Thank you for taking the time today to attend our 2021 virtual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Vigil. We hope you are able to carry these words with you and remember that the lessons from Dr. King's life and legacy are not limited to one day, but that every day is a new chance for progress, growth, and reconciliation. Thank you again, and please visit nwamlk.org for more information about the Northwest Arkansas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Council and for a schedule of events for the rest of today. Thank you, God bless, and go Hogs.